So this is episode one of Tea Time with Turbo. We are here in, what is the name of this town again?
Technically Midway, but I claim Madisonville because Bucky's is right here. And when you turn right to come off this road, it changes into Midway because of the crossroad. I'm like literally 2 miles from Bucky's, and Madison County line is right here. I actually never lived here my whole life. I'm from Magnolia, which is another, I don't know, hour south. And then I've always, I guess when I started racing, people realized who I was. I lived in New Waverly for the last I don't know, 3 years. I lived in Texas, and that's where I've always been claimed. And then my parents moved to Madisonville when I left home, and it's where they've been. So yeah, now this is home. This is technically, my home, but I've never lived here a day in
Right.
my life, which is kind of weird. But it's yeah, it's better location than Magnolia because it's an hour and 20 minutes closer to racing, but we're still 20 hours away from everything, it seems like.
And you live in Ohio for the most part now at this point, but when you come back to Texas, it's got to feel good to be back in the state, doesn't it?
Oh, it's the greatest state in the world. Just everything about it, as simple as you wake up and you can eat breakfast at Shipley's, Whataburger, the best breakfast tacos in the world by far in Texas. And, that's something that living up north, you don't get a lot of. Like we have McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's even has breakfast, like just terrible, terrible breakfast options. But yeah, everything about being home, obviously, um, and racing, apparently, there's not a lot of people that are like me. And down here where I'm at, all my buddies, people I grew up with, people think I'm different and I'm outgoing and loud or whatever, but I'm not. It's just how I grew up and, the culture of where I'm from. That's just kind of how people are. They're not shy to tell you what they think, how they think, what they think is right, whether it's right or wrong. It's just the way that, the way that we were all brought up and raised. And if you've ever came down here to vacation, do anything, and experienced just a normal week in the life of living down here, you'd understand these people are they're just real. Like they're the realest people you ever meet in your whole life, and there's no, hidden agendas and things like that. So it feels good because there's nothing like being at home. I love living in Ohio and having our shop 10 minutes from my house, and, the people that I've met up there that are a part of Best Performance. But if I didn't race, I would never leave Texas, just as far as living, weather, food, um, things to do, everything about it. I love it. It's the only place you can go where I can drive 20 minutes that way and go play golf. I can go in my backyard, and if I want to shoot a AR and shoot whatever I feel my heart desires, I can. Or at the same time, I can, go to 30 minutes away to a college and go to the clubs and the bars and eat good food and just interact with a lot of people. Right here where we're at, if I don't want to see a human being for a month, I can just stay right here. It's just so many opportunities and things to do and things to see, and um, it's the people that I enjoy being around the most for sure.
Yeah, I've lived here since '08 and in Corpus Christi, man, and I came from Iowa, and just something I'll never leave Texas because there's something about this state you just can't find it anywhere else. It's freedom.
It is. It's that's what people don't understand. And I mean, I cuss. Like, it is what it is. Like, I have no remorse when I say, like, it doesn't even cross my mind. As simple as that is, or as crude as that is, that's just a way of being from here and around here. Like, if you sit down in a restaurant, you listen to people talk, and like, I people watch a lot. I love people watching. And I mean, it's not out of the norm to sit down at a Mexican restaurant. Okay, right here in my town, for example, which is weird. Cody Johnson, most of y'all have heard him if you listen to country music. He used to live in New Waverly. So when I lived in New Waverly, he lived 3 miles away. My mom and, our company's done a lot of work for him at his house in New Waverly. He built a beautiful house. Well, then now we've moved to Madisonville, and he just bought a ranch, literally, if you go 5 miles the other direction in this town here. And that's what's cool about living here is, you go sit down and eat Mexican food at Lalo's, which I took you today for lunch. Great place.
Amazing.
Okay. it would be not a normal, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to see him sitting there eating lunch, three or four farmers with guns strapped on their hip, just enjoying fajitas like another day. And me, racing's not that big down here, so they don't know me from Adam and they don't care, which it doesn't matter. I don't get off on that, but Cody Johnson might be sitting there eating dinner and it's not, I would say I mean, now he's getting so big that it's a big deal. Like people would probably bother him to an extent, but when we lived in New Waverly, there was another little restaurant there, Anita's, 3 miles from my house. And, me and a bunch of my buddies, we'd all eat. I mean, we ate there 3 or 4 days a week, and he'd be sitting there with his two girls and his wife. And, I mean, nobody bothers the guy because they're like, yeah, it's Cody Johnson. Like, it's just, there's so much going on down here, and the people are, I don't know if it's a respect thing or what it is. Like, they're like, yeah, that's Cody Johnson. Like, they wouldn't harass the guy and, hoard him up. Whereas, like, you go to the Dome and Dylan Scott's there, these people are like, you'd have think they seen the President of the United States. Like, they can't get enough of him. And I don't know what it is about that. Like, I guess down here, people don't get starstruck as easy. Would be maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. But, my people that I've always grown up and hung out with, they're like, oh yeah, that's so and so, or Kenny Montgomery, the guy that sings the Dirt Track theme song. Like me and him, literally, for when I lived in New Waverly, the whole time I lived there, he lived there too, and like it was religious. Like at 3:30, 3:30, 4, 5, we'd go. Our other buddy, Mr. Slot, and his family, they got a nice hunting, fishing place. They wouldn't tell anybody that if you ever asked them, they ain't got there, but it's a beautiful place. And like we'd go over there, go fishing, we'd go eat, and then whatever was going on in Huntsville, we'd go hang out, and it is what it is. And like, if you bring up his name or that song somewhere else, they're like, oh, Kenny Montgomery? I'm like, yeah, like me and him used to go sit and eat Mexican food, and it was, like he's not a big deal, but I guess to some people, other people are a big deal, and that's just, I don't know. I never view myself as that because I'm not realistically. Like, I can go to Walmart and maybe 1 out of 10 Walmarts, somebody might see me or might be wearing a racing shirt. So like nobody, I guess nobody holds themselves on different levels down here is the thing. You could hang out with the richest guy in town or the poorest guy in town, but we all get along really well. And, it's just it's not tight knit, but like you can meet somebody and you're like, oh, that's a friend of a friend of a friend. And that might be your best buddy that day. And then you might not see him for 8 months. So yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, but I definitely love Texas, everything about it, and this is the place that I will probably end up, retiring and living whatever I end up doing after racing or maybe during racing. You never know, but this is where I'll definitely end up at some point.
For sure. It'd just be so hard, I think, to run a team out of this area because the amount of travel, the distance is just, I mean, I drove back from the Dome a couple, 3 weeks ago, and it was every bit of 15 hours to get home.
Yeah, it was. So when I was, I ran World Outlaws when I was 18. The year I graduated high school, we were putting in a septic one day, and my dad was like, "You want to go to Florida?" I was like, "Are you serious? Like, why? Why? Like, we're not ready to go there." But, I didn't say that out loud. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I hate working here. Like, I do not want to put in septics and like something about just working on somebody's double wide all day long. You just get tired of it. Like, and probably because I didn't directly reap the benefits. Like, yes, I got to race, yes, but like I like people, but I don't like having people tell me what to do, I guess is the best way. So anyways, we go to Florida and no, I had just graduated. So it was my first year going to college. I went to college at Sam for 2 years. And I had to go to school still, right? Like I was in my first semester of college. So me and kid Scooby, he worked for the septic company and he would go race with me on the weekends. We load up, we go to Volusia, or we go to Screven first, because I was running Ward Dallas. So we go to Screven and Volusia, which is like 12 hours from here. I mean, it's not a short drive. And long story short, we make it through that. Somehow I fly back and forth twice, go to school. Don't do good, but we just were like, yep, we did it. We can keep going. So throughout the next 2 years, I run World Outlaws. Well, I mean, the World Outlaws schedule used to have a race in Kilgore, and they used to, they've been Louisiana, Mississippi was a stretch, and then all that's just kind of died out, and everything's moved north. But like the years I ran, we'd go to Canada and stuff. So it was nothing. The way I always scheduled my, like, okay, I got to leave to be in Muskingum County. on Friday, I'd be like, okay, Wednesday night, I need to leave and at least get to Texarkana. That's like 4 hours from here. And then from there, once you hit Memphis, everything's close from Memphis because Memphis is 9.5 hours from here. So it was a minimum 10, 11 hours in that general direction before you're like, okay, we can race here. And that was one thing that always sucked about racing because I came home a lot to work and go to school and do other things. So, I mean, getting there, you could always draw it out like, hey, I need to leave a day early and do this. But coming home, it's all right, we got 16 hours. So it's pretty simple. I'm gonna drive till I can't see anymore, and then whoever was with me, they would drive the rest of the way or whatever. But I mean, the 2 years we did it, I only had me and one kid for 2 years, and it was, I had three or four guys along the way that went with me, but driving that got to be the easy part, but it was the suckiest part. Well, now that I live in Ohio, everything's close, and it's like we're going to Sonoy. That's 9 hours. We'll leave at noon. It's just it's made racing a lot more enjoyable because I don't have to drive so far to go places. Like when people are like, oh man, we got to go 7 hours this place. I'm like, that's hop, skip, and a jump. Because down here, you're just to race a national level or any sort of major super late model races, the Houston area is just they don't have it. They had a stretch in late 08, 09, 2010 where they'd come to Battleground and places down here, but it's just kind of died out, and it's a lot of modifieds, factory stocks, sport mods, and stuff. So there's just not a draw for it. Crate cars are kind of making a climb down here, which is a good thing. So maybe one day it'll branch down here. World Outlaws has a race at Rocket this year, which is actually pretty cool. That's close. That's a I'd like to be able to make that, and maybe it'll all come full circle, and there'll be a big regional series or something that'll pop up down here in time. But not ideal logistically, especially if you don't have a diesel sponsor. If you don't like driving, Texas isn't the place to base your racing team out of for sure.
It's crazy to me how, Texas is probably the second biggest state in the union. I mean, we have everything. I mean, professional sports teams for days, and it's just dirt track racing. Like it's popular. There's good drivers down here, and where we come from. I don't know what the national problem has been with that, and hopefully coming to Rocket and places like that will start to turn it around. But like from your standpoint, the Texas fan base is underserved.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's like so the dome, okay? We go to the dome, and that's one thing I tell people. Like the dome is, I swear 80% of those people don't go to another race all year, or they don't go to a big late model. These people have never been to Eldora, a lot of them, just because sitting up there signing autographs or people coming down and talk to you, they're like, yeah, man, we race at Boot Hill, or yeah, man, we race at Rocket Raceway every weekend. And I'm like, why'd you come here? And they're like, well, there ain't nothing going on down where we're at. And, these people race, they like racing. There's a lot of racing down here. It's just not, a 5,000 win race here, period, which would probably be for a factory stock of all things, is not like there's not much good quality, higher end racing, I guess you would call it down here, which is crazy because the amount of money and people that race, like if you just took a racers per capita, survey, there is a ton of racers in the Houston area, Dallas area for sure. Um, Even in West Texas, like a lot of good guys, Rodney Sanders, a lot of mod guys are from that area. Even south, Corpus Christi, places like that, and they just, the options are there for what you want to race. So if these guys want to race 50 times a year, they got to get a sport mod or a factory stock or something like that. Like if you got a crate car, you might could race 20 times in the state of Texas. Other than that, you're going to have to drive all over America to do it. So the fans don't get to, Devil's Bowl. I don't even think the sprint cars are going back to Devil's Bowl anymore. So that's a
I
thing.
think
It's done, right?
yeah, it's done.
It's done.
My understanding is it's done, which is crazy because, you think about the one track in the DFW area that has that much history, and again, the urban sprawl, I think, just ate it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too, is we have so much to offer that dirt track racing, to the average person, they don't like you could go through Madisonville, Texas right here, and I bet you if there's 5,000 people live here, I think we looked that up, 5,000, maybe 200 of them even know what a dirt track car is. And that's because their buddy from down here races. Like, it's not like there's just so much to offer. Like if you want to go watch Major League Baseball, major or NFL or hockey, I think we even have a hockey team somewhere. Dallas has a hockey team. Like there's so many other things to do that, when you go to Iowa, and no knock on Iowa, but there's not there. Like you can drink beer or go to dirt track races, you go to the fair. Like there's more to offer in a big city, and that's kind of how Texas is. Like, even though I'm not in downtown Houston, everybody from Houston claims 2 hours this way, 2 hours that way. I mean, you're Houston. Like I always say I'm from Houston, but there's just a lot to do. So, if you're going to drive 45 minutes to go do something, you're going to go do something that's like pretty cool. So I think that's just a nature of living in such a high populated, a lot of activity, a lot of action place, and that's something that kind of sucks for me. But at the same time, you know, the people that do follow racing in this area, or even in the state of Texas, like they know what's going on because, like, what's your claim to fame? Like, if you name 10 people that are like big time racers from Texas, and they'll be like, "Oh, my guy from that
Phil,
races sport mods,"
Phil Dixon. I'm gonna say Phil Dixon's name because that dude holds it down.
Yeah, Phil Dixon. There you go. He's from Cleveland, North Cleveland, I think. And yeah, but like, see me, I know all these people, but like, if you said Jono Whittington to the average person, they'd be like, "Who?" Like, they have no idea. But that guy's won hundreds and hundreds of races. Howard Willis.
Howard Willis has
Howard
won.
Willis.
I want to say it's over 1,000 wins.
It's something ridiculous, and everybody has those people in their areas and towns. But guys like that just they once you leave the state of Texas, they have no idea who that is, and it's kind of crazy because you're like, you don't understand how good these guys were, but they just you know, it's like our state is 20 years behind on a lot of racing, information and just stuff like that. Like they've never seen a Fairbury weekend or a Eldora weekend. So the Texas Grand was the biggest thing that ever happened here for a long time. And it paid 1,000 to win in like six classes. And like that was like if you won the Texas Grand, you were the baddest sumbitch ever. And it's not like you grew up in Fairbury where they had the Prater Classic every year. Like, it's a totally different world and landscape of racing. So it's honestly funny when you listen to, people that live by Fairbury, Farmer City, Summer National Tracks are like, man, these places suck. They ain't got us. And if you came down here and these people just saw a weekly show up there, they'd be like, holy, this is awesome. Like the amount of people and the cars and the quality of stuff that shows up there, they don't get that chance to see that. And I didn't either until I left and started racing more. I was like, I thought that this was it. And then you roll into Canada to race the World Outlaws race, and these people are like, you know, they have a good thing going as is, but then you see all these people come in from all over America, and you're like, holy, racing can be a lot bigger if you organize it right and promote it right and get the right people there. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Not to shun Houston, but Houston has had, they've had Royal Purple, Battleground, Gator,
HMP.
HMP. Yeah, Steve Whitaker Sr. tells me all the time about racing late models at Big H and all that. They've had those opportunities, but all that's left now is 105 Speedway, and nothing against it. It just you look at a metro market the size of Houston, and it's like, God damn, can you do something?
Yeah, you would think you'd be able to sell it. 105 of all places I think it's been shut down the most off and on throughout the years. And Gator was the place closest to us, and it like they had a World Outlaw sprint car race. They had some regional late model races when I first started, and for those events, they would get a good amount of people, and it's just like it never escalated. Like it was like when people have events and they're like, "Oh, we want it to get bigger. We want next year we're going to do this. Next year we're putting in more bleachers." Like nothing down here did that. Royal Purple was the nicest place by far. I mean, it was comparable to like a Texas Motor Speedway or something like that. Huge grandstands, always had World Outlaw sprint cars, USMTS, all these races, and it was right next to the drag strip. Well, drag strip makes more money. Dirt track messes up the drag strip. We're bulldozing in its parking lot, and it's crazy to think because you look at some of the other places in the world that have big events, and you're like, this place is a shit. You might go to I hate Cherokee. I'm just gonna say it like Cherokee Speedway. Okay, Like never, nothing's changed since 1967, and they continue to pack this. Like shout out to them because they pack this place out, but they're, an hour south of Charlotte, 30 minutes north of Spartanburg. Not like you're that. I mean, there's people around, but it's like, okay, Charlotte's a major city with all kinds of
5 minutes from the airport to Cherokee.
yes, and people will, I mean, they'll camp out all this for Cherokee. And if you've ever watched the race of Cherokee, you're like, golly. And Baytown, which was Royal Purple, some of the best races you've ever seen in your life. Great races and could get a good amount of people in cars, but like, they went from having 100 USMTS modifieds there to the next year they have 70, next year they have 50, next year they have 40. And it's not like people are running the place in the ground or badmouth. Like, I could badmouth Cherokee till the day it all comes down, and these people are going to fight me to the death because they're just that diehard about it. We're like Houston area racers, they're like, that place, we don't worry about it. And then, that place shuts down. Well, then you're on to the next track. Then Gator Motorplex gets bought out, and it's a housing development. And now you're left with 105, which, 105 has its peaks and valleys. They've had USMTS races. They've had stuff go on, and honestly, it has no choice but to flourish now because if people want to race, they have no choice but to go there. Cotton Bowl still races, and that's a good track, which is actually closer. It's probably the same distance from here to Cotton Bowl to Cleveland, but yeah, it's I don't know. I think
Have you
people
ran over there?
Cotton Bowl. Yeah, I've ran super races there. I won a sport mod race at Cleveland. That's all I've ever raced there. And then Cotton Bowl, we raced SUPR back in the day,
Right.
and that was we went there 2 or 3 times, I want to say, but that's when they first built it. And it's a nice track too, but if you live in Houston and go to Cotton Bowl, it's probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I mean, you got to be dedicated. Well, now I think a lot of I mean, I'm not here every day, so I don't get, but from the gist I get is a lot of people just drive to Dallas to race. Like, they can race Friday and Saturday at RPM or Rocket or Heart of Texas or wherever, Waco area, and they can go race. And, that's kind of I feel like everything's migrated to there, or there's a hard line and you go to like South Texas and what's the other one down there? Abilene or not Abilene, seven?
Texarkana 67.
That's north. There's one south. There's another one
I
south.
37.
I-37.
Yeah, shout out to Ray Doyen.
Yeah, there you go. But that's I don't know. It's just Houston for what it is. It's amazing somebody hasn't just come in and built a place that has 10 big races a year, or something. Just you don't have to race weekly, but you have to race weekly to keep everybody going.
Part of that kind of pisses me off is, the streaming company that handles Texas is based right out of there. Like, they could be putting on big races over there in the Houston market. Like, I've seen Houston Motorsports Park has come and gone and come and gone. And it's like, I know that everybody's eager to support racing, but if you can't do it in Houston, I mean, you can do anything there.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, you got an NFL team, an NBA franchise.
Well, and you got 11 months of good weather. You know what I mean? Like a lot of places,
Yeah.
they can't start, like where I'm at, I guarantee you in March it'll be snowing in Wapakoneta, Ohio. Like they try to race Atomic, they try to race, you just can't do it. It's going to snow. You could race today in Houston, Texas. It was 67
We
degrees.
played golf
That's what I'm saying.
December
Beautiful outside.
30th.
Beautiful outside. So like weather's, least of your issues. And that's a lot of places. That's what, kill a whole year is it just the weather sucks. So I don't know what needs to happen. Like maybe the right person needs to, come in and spend some money, or I don't know. I think a lot of it too is just the keeping up with the Joneses. Like, we want to have this class, and this class, and that creates a lot of problems for people because, some of my buddies, they still want to race bombers. And it's like, dude, if you're going to race a bomber, you might as well get a bang banger. Like, we got to have a hard distinction class to class to class to class to
Right.
keep this going instead of joining all these rules. Like, we can groove a factory stock tire. We can't groove. It's like you're turning a factory stock into a street stock. And then if you really want to do it, you go to Mississippi and you got a full-blown late model that's a street stock. Like, what do you want?
Well, and they spent some time here back in 16, 17, trying to bring Naismith street stocks in when you already had a bunch of street stocks here. I mean, you could have IMCA stock cars. You could do any number of things, but when you have 9 different classes of the same basic type of car,
Yeah.
you're killing yourself.
Exactly. That's the problem. And it happens everywhere. Like a 602 to a 604 to a 525 to a limited late model to a late model. You ever go to Talladega and you'll understand, like, you can't watch a normal person can't show up to a race and watch 9 classes of late models and decipher what's what. Like you just can't have that. You need to have a stock car class, a modified class, a late model class, and then if you want a bandolero, micro mod, whatever you want to call them, like you need to have it distinct because I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to fall into one of those categories. Like if your stock car is that badass and you can buy whatever, you might as well just get a late model or vice versa, and it's not mean, it's just the truth. Like if you've never raced, you probably shouldn't buy a late model. If you won 77,000 street stock races and you got $80,000 street stock, you should probably buy a late model, or work backwards or forwards. Like that's the problem I think that kills a lot of these places. Like if you go to 105, I'm pretty sure they have bombers, factory stocks, I stocks, and they kind of are trying to make it to where it's just one. But I mean, it's hard when you got a bomber class, which is just a stock race car, and then a guy goes and buys an I stock, and he just whoops her every night. Like they're gonna be like, well, this is fun, but I can't afford an I stock. So now you've just burned out those guys that were, trying to take part in what's going on every weekend. When really that guy should have just probably bought a modified or whatever.
And factory stocks were
Yeah,
and
factory stocks have always been. Ask Devin Moran about factory stocks one day. We went to Arclotex and he tested before we came to Lone Star for the World Outlaws race in 17 or 18, and he tested at Arclotex. Never been there. He's like, dude, what are these cars that run on slicks? He's like, there's 70 of them, and that is the best race I've ever seen in my life. I was like, yeah, it's a factory stock. Like it's awesome.
I think it's cool that the drivers have some control in that deal because they've moved over to an actual racing tire, but they had it made. They were getting $25 asphalt pull-offs all day long, and yeah, they suck to mount and they're dangerous and yada yada in the mounting process. But I mean, could you imagine being able to race every week on a $25 used tire?
Man, it's pretty cost efficient. Like you want to keep costs down, that's a good start because everything else seems to climb. But when the rule is mandated that you basically have to run an asphalt used tire, like, okay, go buy you a new one for 60 if you're big dogging it. But like it doesn't make it so that's some things that I think has hurt them. I'm not saying having race tires is going to hurt them. Like KK74, that's a good idea. But like, I just think that you got to you need to set like a 10-year plan. Like, hey, look, this is the class for if you bought a brand new car right now, nothing's going to change in 10 years. Like, if you want to run quick changes, like, we'll sit down. This is what we decide. That's another problem, too, is when people have meetings, and this applies for Lucas Oil late models, World of Outlaws, everybody, they have meetings because I've been a part of them. And this is how a meeting goes. All right, guys, this is said problem. We pay X amount for these tires. Some of y'all get these tires at a different price, yada, yada, yada. And what happens is one guy speaks up and says, well, I don't like that I have to pay X amount for a tire, and this guy gets X amount of tires plus this price. So then what happens is instead of taking a general consensus, like we'll just have a poll. There's 11 of y'all in here. If 6 vote this way, that's what we're going to do. I've never been in a meeting to this day where they say that. Like, no, they're too scared. Two people are scared. The person running the meeting and the people in the meeting, 50% of them are too scared to just band together and piss off the other 8 and say, this is what needs to happen. Show up money, for example. We need to just say, okay, everybody says we need more show up money, we need more show up money. Nobody will say a price. And on top of that, if we said, all right, look, everybody votes we need $1,500 show up money, raise your hand. Nobody in the room, okay, say I do, because I've been never gotten my point through because nobody will ever stick with me because then it just turns on me and then I'm the. But that's the easiest way to do. Like it's just run it like a democracy. If it's outnumbered, vote. That's what we're gonna do. If 6 out of the 5, if 6 out of the 11 think it's a good idea, that's the way you should do. But if you read rule books and a lot of the shit that goes on any kind of racing, the lowest form to the biggest form, the people that come up with these decisions, A, don't spend the money, and B, they don't have a clue. You know what I mean? Like they heard from, they took one guy's opinion that they value more than, mine or this guy or that guy's, and that's what they rolled with. When at the end of the day, just because that guy had, like, I have a lot of opinions, and if nobody goes with them, obviously it's not the right one. But if 8 of us agree that that's what we need to do, that's exactly the route you should take because 8 of those people are participating and spending the money and doing so. Like that's what needs to happen. I mean, that's how we run the world. Like it's literally how the world works. So why in dirt late model racing is it not like that? Like why is it, oh well, five of these guys said that, but there's 75 other people with an opinion. Like sit them all down and you can figure it out quick, but you're gonna hurt some people's feelings, and then something should get done. Like that's how a rules meeting should work, or any kind of meeting that has to do with dirt racing. Like you say, all right, guys, we're running a national modified meeting. Okay, if you have a modified, you're invited right here, this date, boom, show up. And we're going to figure out, an agenda. Just say it's three things a year we need to look at: rules, purse, this. And at the end of this meeting, we're going to have a set, yes, this is what we're going to do. But that's not how any of this stuff happens, and it just never pans out. And half the people are pissed off, half of them, they might be indifferent or whatever, but everybody shows up the next year, and that's the problem. Like you gotta push to get what everybody wants. You can't just fold and be like, oh well, we can run groove tires. That's what we're gonna do. If you don't want to do that, you got to say something. Now, if the whole other room says we're gonna run groove tires, you're just gonna have to suck it up. But I mean, it applies to a lot of the shit that we do. And until something happens to get that ball rolling, we're just all at the mercy of whatever we're trying to do. If you want to go race here with this series, or if you just want to race Saturday night at your local track and you're pissed off about it, like it's just what you got to deal with, man. Like, and if you don't think you have enough power, then you need to get all the people with power behind you to make it happen. If they think it's a good idea, then it'll probably happen.
You were telling me a story today after we played some golf about the time this year where you felt like everybody in the Lucas Oil series was together at West Virginia Motor Speedway. But is that more unlikely in a day-to-day scenario than that one particular occurrence?
Yeah, it was I mean, it's just a matter. So, like that particular instance, it had some issues at the racetrack, which Cody, he did a good job. He brought this place back to life, spent a bunch of money, but at the end of the day, the fans were always there. Most of the racers didn't want to be there. I went to the first three races he had, and there was no cars, but the grandstands were packed. I mean, absolutely packed. So we have a Lucas Oil race, and we race the first day, and it's 50-50. Like, I mean, it's so big. We're going so fast. Everything's so expensive. When something it goes bad quick. It's not like Eldora or something like Eldora's big, but it's not, you just don't understand the level of how fast you're going and how, like, you blow a tire, you're crashed. Boom, just like that. And long story short, track was too dusty, couldn't see. There was an issue with the water, and it took myself, Mark Richards, JD, just people that we like probably wouldn't click together most of the time, but we're like, hey, look, is this really worth it? Like, if we go out here right now and you can't see, and the leader spins out and there's 22 cars here. If all 22 of us crash right here, what did we accomplish? Like, I get it, it's big, whatever. You don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. You didn't have to show up, but like, if you run a series, you have to go. That's part of the deal. If the series says we're going to go race in this backyard, and if you don't do it, you don't get your points money. You're just kind of you're in. Like you have no choice. So that particular instance, we all were like, look, we can't see. I don't know what you want to do, but we can't do this. And they were like, all right, well, what about these fans? I'm like, I spoke up a lot in this because I'm like, what the fans don't understand. They're like, well, all these fans spent $35 a head to get in. I'm like, I understand that, but we've got $100,000 sitting here going in circles to make 50, mind you. Like that's one thing that we all got to get clear. Like we don't race for what the value of what everything is. But I said those fans don't understand. Like if they sat in this car and drove one time around this racetrack and they couldn't see, they would say this, I'm out. Like I don't want no part of it. And like I understand, but as part of us, working with y'all and putting a show on for y'all or whatever you want to call what we do, you have to have our backs in a sense and tell these fans, look, it's unsafe or it's whatever, and that's why we can't race. And, a lot of it, that's the problem with what we got going on sometimes. Like, I'm not here to bitch about it. I love racing. I'm going to show up, take part, and when I think it's dumb, I say it, and then people get upset. But it's the truth. Like, the racers are their own group, right? And then you have the series and the promoters and all of that. Even streamers, the people that stream the races, all that. That's their own little group, okay? Then you've got the fans. And without all three, nothing works. You have to have all three. But what The promoter has to understand is we get it. They got to have fans. So in order to have fans, they got to have us. So when we're unhappy and we're pissed off or we think we're not getting treated as we should or whatever, just pissed off that we just raced 3 days for 50,000 win, it paid $4,000 for fifth. Like that sucks. Like if you do the math on anything we're doing, it doesn't add up. But we understand that agreement. Like we're not, at a sense we all bitch about it. We want to make more money. Everybody wants to make more money. Nobody wants to do anything where they just constantly lose money. But they have to treat us as like, okay, if we lose these people, we don't make the money and we ain't got nothing to sell these fans. So everybody's going to be pissed off. So like first opinion, as bad as it is, should be the racer. You know what I mean? Like the racer is the first opinion because you could put all the fans out there and we could sit in the stands and it's not as profitable. You know what I mean? If you got 7,000 people to just walk around this racetrack all day and you only got 50 of us to buy a pit pass to watch it, it don't add up. So that's where I think there needs to be a better line of communication or just a better understanding, like flat out understanding. Like, hey, if this is what, the first, like at Vado, there'd be 40, 50 cars somewhere in there. If all 40 of us agree that having as simple as the transponder needs to be on the left front, if that's a fucking issue to debate about, who gives a fuck if the fans think, well, it was on the right. Like they read something on Facebook that I got thrown out because mine was in the wrong place. Like who gives a fuck? You need to ask them, figure that out, and then guess what? Them fans, they don't give two fucks whether the transponder's on the left front or right rear. That's a menial. That's not the issues we need to address. But I'm just saying, like, that should be your first person and your people that you ask to get right. Like, hey guys, do you think starting at 3 o'clock when it's 177 degrees outside is a good idea? Like, don't, not the fact that the fans are going to stroke out in the stands too, but like, what about this guy driving this car? Like, you don't think maybe it affects him too? Like, I get it, it's going to hurt your crowd, but it's going to hurt them guys if they're sweating their balls off for absolutely no reason when we could start at 7. Just simple like that would go a long ways, but I don't know how you, I don't know how you get 40 dudes with egos and pride to agree on shit. And I'm guilty, everybody's guilty of it, but that's something that has to get better to continue to grow. Like they keep saying, oh, we're pumping more money in this, we're pumping more money in this, we're pumping more. Like there is more money being paid out to the top 3 guys that year, which is the way it is. It's not a participation sport. But if you got a fucking rodeo, we were talking about rodeo today. If you got 3 guys rodeoing or you got 103 guys rodeoing, you got more so. So you need to keep more people involved at all times. Like you can't just wean out the weak. Like at some point you're going to cut the fat and the cream will always rise, but you've got to keep you got to keep the guys that can keep climbing, or if you have a bad year, you don't just go broke doing racing on a national level. Like it's a lot of money being spent. So if you're selling something to somebody, you want 30 bad some bitches doing it. You don't want 10. Like and that's the nature of what's going on right now, and something will happen. I don't know what. I'm not that trendsetter, but something will happen to either A, just kill it. Like it might not happen tomorrow, but it might die, or, things will start going the right way. Corporate sponsors, whatever will happen, or just purse structures or something. Something will happen to elevate it. Because if it doesn't, it's the nature of everything. Like people don't have Lamborghinis. Like if everybody had a Lamborghini, there would be something bigger. So to keep everybody, with the chance to be able to buy a Corvette, you got more of an opportunity to buy a Corvette than you do a Lamborghini. So you got to keep that in dirt late model racing. Whatever you got to do, do that. You got to keep it within the means to be able to have that opportunity.
You brought up the transponder issue. What happened at the dome exactly?
Uh, New guy, first day, just dumb. Just I mean, it wasn't malicious. Just up and they did say right rear, which is dumb, by the way. Everybody that ever puts on a race, promotes a race, texts a race. The reason we had it on the right rear, this is what pissed me off. The reason we have it on the right rear is because we don't want to lose one. Now, I want everybody that's ever watched a race, thought about a race, thinks about a race, thinks they knows about a race, to think about what corner of a late model gets ripped off more than anything. The right rear. Okay? It's on the axle tube. Granted, it's not mounted on the spoiler, but when you bounce through holes, when you hit the wall, when you do like that, everything in the rear end moves with it. So you're going to lose a transponder on the right rear or break a transponder on the right rear 10 times more than you would on the left front. It's a fun common. If you hit the one guy at the dome that knocked his nose off, his transponder would have been on the frame rail. I promise you his transponder wouldn't have come off. So, like, it was just a dumb, it was a dumb rule that we missed. We've raced 120 races this year, and I never once, at any race we went to, did we put the transponder on the right rear. Not one race. And that particular race we did, and we have a bag on the front, and one kid put it on the front, and it just went. And the odds of that happening, like, the way the whole heat race played out, like, it was just dumb luck that he was even that close. Like, if I would have finished second by 0.000001, they wouldn't even looked at it, but it said I won on race monitor and had to go from the tail from then on out, basically.
Did that up your week there?
Wasn't easy. Didn't make it good. Like, so I went from starting seventh in the prelim to seventh in the B main that night. Lap one of the B main, guy hit me in the left rear, just circumstances of where we're at, and I had a flat, so I didn't even make one lap in the B main. Had to start dead last in the qualifier or whatever on Saturday, and I made it to sixth from 13th in like 10 laps. So, yeah, it didn't make it easy. I started 20th and ran sixth in the feature. So, I mean, I passed a ton of cars, and it's not easy to pass there all the time. I'm not saying we would have won, but I think I would have had a lot better odds if I didn't, have to start dead last basically from there on out.
Yeah, that seemed like a bad overall deal.
Yeah, it was shit. And the thing that was about is I didn't argue the fact that like, I told them straight up, I was like, I didn't win. I ran second. And they were like, well, my race pass says you won. I'm like, well, change it. Like, y'all can change it. Like, they act like it was they're rewriting the Declaration of Independence. It wasn't should change it on race map because they did change it like 10 minutes later. Just, I think it'd have been different I mean, I was in the wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that me. Like, I love going there. I'll be back next year. But if we finished side by side for 30 grand, then we could argue about the transponder. But it was clear as day I didn't win. So, like, just chalk it up as, hey, the transponder loops up are bad. But I mean, it made it interesting. I think it was more exciting for the people that watched me. They didn't show me on camera, but the people that watched, I think it was more exciting to pass a lot of cars.
All right, so you're getting ready to head out to the Wild West Shootout. Hard to believe January is upon us. Early start to the season. Wild West Shootout, Vado Speedway Park. Royal Jones has an immaculate facility over there. What are you looking for with those races coming up?
I like starting there instead of Florida. Like, when you get to Florida, you're kind of like, it's just go, go, go. You've got, if you want to, Volusia to Volusia, which would be all of Florida. That's like 20 races every day. You have a day or two off in between before Brunswick starts. But once Brunswick starts, it'd be like 18 days straight of racing. So I've always liked before because I went to Phoenix, I went to Tucson even when I first started racing when I raced, around here, just kind of got a jump on basically, okay, this is kind of like setting the tone. Like, are we in good shape when we go to Florida, or are we like, what do we need to do? And even in times in between that, I've gone to Australia and raced, and to be able to race four, five, six times is good to basically just to get you back in the seat. Like, now that the dome was late this year and all this, like, we really even had any time off. But before, you raced Charlotte or wherever your last race was in November, and you didn't race again until first week of February, middle of January. So going to Vado when it used to be at Phoenix, anywhere, it's just you get to practice first and foremost. Like, we get to test on the way out there and then test at Vado and then race the first 2 nights, and then you kind of got 2 days to regroup and, like, okay, the first day was next day was good, or both days sucked, we need to do something. And you got 2 days to basically just back up and punt, and you don't have to say, okay, now we're headed to East Bay, what do we do? Like, you have a day off here, a day off here to kind of get things situated. I mean, obviously, when you're winning, you want to race every day. You don't want a day off. But down there, it's like you get your feet wet, but you're not full swimming right off the rip. So it's a good chance. And now, I mean, the crowd there's gotten better every year. Like the cars that go there every year, it gets tougher and tougher. So you're not racing strokes by any mean. Like you have good cars coming and, basically just kind of a judge to see where you're at. Like you don't think much would change from Charlotte to now, but I mean, you'd be amazed at what can change in a month. Just a matter of building new cars, or this guy went to this team, or whatever has happened in the off season. What little off season there is. There's a lot of a lot of people work year round, which we do too, and that's where you kind of see if you're getting better or worse. It's hard to get to June and say, okay, I'm gonna turn my year around. Like I know what's wrong because you got to 3 days later you leave and go race again. So we've before the dome actually, we raced Charlotte. That was our last race, and that's the first week in November. So up until the dome, we built two new cars. The car we took to the dome was an old car, but like really backed up and just kind of reevaluated what we were doing and feel like we're way more organized, situated. Just, you get ragged out. You crash a car in June and then you're waiting on a new car for 2 or 3 weeks. So you throw another one together and you just keep racing, keep going, going, going. And, that can get you in a bind really easy. And a lot of people do. That's when you race 100 times a year, when it's going good, how Ricky Thornton, Bobby, and Hudson did this year for the most part. Like when it's going good, it's easy to keep it going good. When you're struggling, you need 2 weeks off, but how are you going to skip Eldora? It pays, it's the World 100. You don't skip Eldora. I don't think so. Like I've never had that mentality. I can't say, oh, there's a 50,000 win here. I'm just not going to go because I need to get my stuff right. Which there's pros and cons to that. Like the cons is you're really not prepared. You probably should have stayed home and got ready, but it's just a matter of, well, we've done everything we can do this week. This might be the week we finally get it all situated and, go win some money this week. So the time to take off and get everything ready is just, it's good for me for sure. I always start off really good, I feel like, especially in Florida and Vado. Phoenix, the year I won two races. I finished second in the points in 21 and 22, and then last year, just December was for me the whole month. Everything that happened is just a bad month, and we didn't have time to be there. I didn't have time to be there. My guys got everything ready as much as they could, and we just went to Vado and Florida, and we struggled. And um, that was when we left Vado, we knew we had a problem. That's one thing I think was really good. Like last year was a F in my book. Like it wasn't a good year of racing. Like I won 3 or 4 races, but it wasn't good. Well, we left Vado and we were terrible. So from the time we left Vado to got to Florida, we called, got a new car, got a car sent to my sponsor Stevens, thrashed, tore one of these boxes apart, put that car together, ran the first couple nights of Brunswick and Ocala, and we're like, we're not, it's better, but it's not right. And then first night at East Bay, we got everything situated, won, boom, things were good. But if we would have showed up to Brunswick, you can't build a car when you're racing that day. So really, we had 2 weeks when we left Vado to say, okay, we definitely have a problem. We got to do something. Like we can't take this to Florida and expect a race like this. So that's as bad as the year was, that was a good thing, and that's a good thing about coming out here for me. Like a lot of people come and they might not race again until April, but for us, it's just a way to just you don't know until you go race. You can go test all day long. You can practice, simulate it, wind tunnel, fucking whatever you want to do, but until you race against other cars, you really don't know where you stand. You have an idea, and you're like, man, everything feels good, but feeling good and being fast are way different. So that's the main reason we like going, and I enjoy it too. I mean, it's not snowing. Like it snows in Ohio all winter, so it sucks. This is a way for us to beat the weather for really till March 1st. So it's nice to sit in nice weather and come home, see my family, and just get some racing in.
One of the guys that's going to be out at the Wild West Shootout is Kyle Larson. What is it like racing with him in a Durley model?
I mean, I don't get. That's what I'm saying. I don't get. Like, I don't get off on saying I race with Kyle Larson. It doesn't do shit for me. Some people probably do, but I mean, for I think a lot of people that have raced late models for a long time, he's like an outsider because you're like, that's a sprint car guy or that's whatever. But I mean, he's a normal dude. He just like I don't get off. Like I don't want Kyle Larson to win. Like why would I want him to win? That's not that guy gets to race at Bristol and Darlington and all these other places. Like it'd be like me coming into his house and being like, "Hey man, I'm gonna race. I got we got smart people. Like I'm gonna probably win." And like I think that's how a lot of people look at it. Like he should win. He's that good. Like I don't think he should win. If he can win, he's good. Like he knows how to drive. He's not a bad driver by any means. So I just honestly, I probably get a little bit more satisfaction if I beat him. That'd be a thing. But like when he first came in like 21, every race he was at, like he passed me at All Tech and won there. Then he passed me at Brunswick and beat me. And I'm like, this guy, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of frustrating. But now it's like the new, it's shiny has kind of worn off. And I think he's realized that too because he hasn't raced near as much. And I mean, it's hard, dude. Like if your stuff's not good, you can be the best driver in the world and you're not going to win. And I think, I don't know. I don't talk to him on the daily. Some people do that race with us, but I don't know him that well, so I'm not like, well, this is what he thinks or says. But I mean, I'm a good enough judge of character that like if he could win all these races, he would come to every single one he could win. And it's a matter of scheduling and things like that. And he's got better to do. Like if I could go make money and do other stuff, I would do that too. But I like late model race. That's my jam. Like that's what I do. So I really I just like nothing would make me happier than like I won 6 races and they're like, oh, he's gonna win all 6. Like that would give me internal satisfaction for whatever my messed up mind thinks.
Yeah, it's crazy. To see him as a fan, I mean, you see him on Sundays in NASCAR, winning every big wing sprint car race. I mean, the guy's, to come to late models and really taking to it. I just never get the vibe that he's really having a whole lot of fun. And maybe that's just my perspective on it, but I imagine the amount of burden and stress and travel and that he has going on all the time just has to be exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just I mean, a guy probably can't take a piss without people just wanting something. Whether it's, hey, Kyle, how's it going? Or, hey, man, you want to do this? You want to do that? Like I guarantee he'll go golf with us and he'll probably enjoy that just as much as anything. But he just, I don't know how I would take it in his shoes. Like how, if it would even be worth it for me, like to go out here. Like I love racing and I would want to race, but like when you get to a certain point of stardom like that, people just don't leave you alone. And um, I could see, especially if you didn't win, like, I mean, if you're a competitor, you want to win. So if you go somewhere and you don't win and you've got all this name behind you, you'd be like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, all it's doing is discrediting me. So, I mean, as long as you can do good and compete, like, I don't see where that part of it would, shun him away. But I could see where just all the other BS that comes with it would wear you out. You'd be like, I'd rather just sit at home till Daytona. Like, I don't want to come out here and mess with these rednecks.
Yeah, I don't know what. And in that situation, you don't see, and God bless Kyle Larson for this, that he does come out and do that. And he comes to places where you see him sometimes and you're like, man, I can't believe he's even here. But, you don't traditionally see NASCAR guys at his level even leaving their house when they're not going to the track. So, in that from that standpoint, I think it's amazing what he's done.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like it takes a special person to be able to put up with everything that comes with it. Like some people are like, oh, NASCAR money, this, that, he's got it made. But I mean, it's a lot to deal with people and have, that sort of, um, I guess, or like, bubble around you at all times. Like people are always looking at you and just waiting for you to do something good or bad, and they're gonna take you to the grave with it. So yeah, it's I mean, I'd say that he's just comfortable with himself enough that he's like he doesn't care. He's gonna do whatever he wants and what makes him happy, and it's good enough for him.
So after Vado, you get a couple week break. Well, I mean, I don't even know if it's a couple week break at that point, but you head down to Florida Speed Weeks, and that seems like a grind. Like it really does. Even like me going home at night and turning on Flow, it's like, man, I'm almost tired of watching racing at that point. What's it like from the driver's perspective and the crews and the amount of work that goes into that?
Yeah, I mean it's not for the weak of heart, but you gotta like I've always loved Florida. I like going to East Bay. I like going to Brunswick, Alltech, Ocala. Not a Volusia fan. I've been, 4 or 5 times. It's a, it kind of, it gets you in the rhythm of like, all right, we got to go. Like, and it really gets you good at your schedule. Like when you go to the racetrack, you have a schedule. You unload at this time. You got to do this. You go through your shocks. You plan for accordingly, and then say you blow a motor up one night. You got to stay up the next night to get everything ready so you can go through the same routine the next day. And once you get in that rhythm, and your guys are jiving well, and everybody's on the same page, it's not that bad. It's just if you're struggling down there, it sucks because you're just like, holy shit, I got 15 more days of this. But or if you junk a car the first night, like it can be bad really quick, but for whatever reason, East Bay makes me happy. I love East Bay. So when I know that my last week is East Bay, this year we go back to Brunswick, a week later or whatever, but my deal is I'm always looking forward to East Bay. Like I'm like, oh man, it doesn't matter. I want to do good I've won at Brunswick, run second at Ocala and Alltech, just never won there, but like I like going there, but I'm like, man, when I get to East Bay, I'm gonna fuck these guys up. Like that's my mindset. So then when I'm at East Bay, I'm like, hell yeah, night one East Bay. And then I'm like, shit, I got 5 more nights here. Then by the end of the week, I'm like, I wish I was here for another week. A lot of people disagree with me. Like they hate East Bay because they're like, oh, they just can't figure it out. This, that, and the other. But if you, I mean, it's just, I'd say it's like anything else. If you love what you're doing and your day-to-day operation, then it's not a bad deal. I love everything about it. Driving the truck, everything that we do on our cars and getting things ready and like even the shit sucks. Like washing the rig, like I hate it, but at the end of the day, I love the satisfaction of seeing this thing clean. So it's just all a part of the what you do to get ready and to participate and compete. So I love it personally. A lot of people they don't agree with it, and I'd say like the guys that have run summer nationals, they can relate because they know what it's like to race 15, 16 days straight and not have a break. Like, you don't have a choice to have a break. I mean, if you don't run a series or if you don't, if you don't have to do it to, try to achieve what you're trying to achieve, you can take a day off. And some people do. Like a lot of people don't race the first 2 days East Bay because it only pays 5,000. And me, I'm like, fuck, if I don't race today and I sit here all day, like that would just kill me on the inside. I think it's kind of to each his own type of deal. If you've got it in you and that's what you want to do. I mean, a lot of people they just go to Volusia. They don't go to the Lucas races, or they just do the Lucas races and don't go to Volusia. So, there's very few people that do Volusia and all the Lucas stuff. So the people, Mark Richards, JD's done it a couple times. Ricky Thornton will probably do it. Like those guys, like they're geared up and that's what they want to do, and they're gonna do it one way or the other, no matter what it takes. That's that's just kind of your mindset and what your team's built around, and if it's feasible, they'll do it. If it's not, then you can see the ones that aren't set up to do stuff like that. They big intentions to run the whole thing. East Bay, they're gone. Like they just don't, they can't keep up, and or they run out of shit or whatever. Like you have to be in a mindset to do it all, and that's one thing that since 2018 we've done really well down there, just knowing like, hey, this is what we need, this is what we got to do. Like I've totaled a car in practice at East Bay in 21. Absolutely destroyed this car. Went to Phoenix, won 2 races, made good money, drove to Florida, ran good at Brunswick. We didn't go to Ocala that year. I think we went to Alltech, and we got to East Bay, and like I was licking my chops because I was running really good. And last practice session, I destroyed this car off of a side bet. Me and Shot Guy, we were like, I was just talking, he was talking, and I was like, I can go out there and run this lap time. He's like, no, you can't. And like my guys already had the car turned around, all this. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go make one more session, and they were like, whatever, you know. So I get in this thing and I blitz one lap, second lap, don't turn, knock the fence down. I mean, destroy this car, front end, rear end, body, deck, everything. Frame was bent a little bit, and they are pissed. Like, I mean, we've been gone for a month and a half, and really haven't had like we haven't tore nothing up. Like we've been fast, won some races, like things are going good, and they are mad. And I'm like, yeah, that's my bad. So a lot of people like their guys have been like this, like we're not fixing this, we'll get this other car out. And I was like, look, this car's good, we just need to fix it. I know I fucked up, but and we fixed it. I think at like 5:30 in the morning we finally loaded this car, and practice doesn't go till midnight. Like practice got done at like 9, well, like 5:30 we load this car up, rear end, front end, I mean, you name it, we've had to change everything. And I won the next night at East Bay. This was the year I got thrown out from Lucas for a race or whatever for wrecking Ziegler. I ran into him under caution. Same week, like a lot of highs and lows this trip. We did the crew diaries that year too, and I won the first night, and then the next night, me and Ziegler wrecked each other, and I wrecked him, so they threw me out for the night. And this goes on throughout the week. Like I was a points leader after East Bay night one, then I'm throwed out, then I get in a wreck. Like it was just a lot of bad happening. Well, then I won the finale, which was the last night at East Bay. So it was like it's just you got to be able to stay mellow through it all, whether it's good or bad, because like Monday we won, life's good. But Sunday night I had totaled this car. Then we had 4 days of hell, and then I won the finale, and we went home. Life was good. So it's just kind of just how you take it. You can't get spun out when not going your way, because at some point in this trip it will go haywire for a minute, and you got to be able to be like, all right, it's all right. Just fix today, survive today, go again tomorrow.
Yeah, it seems so grueling. I mean, even just to sit back and watch it, it's like, you going from a place like Alltech to anywhere has got to be a huge transition. And then throw in a Bubba Raceway Park, which to me, Bubba Raceway Park looks like a place I really want to go. Partly because I would love to meet Bubba the Love Sponge, man. That guy, I spent a lot of time listening to Sirius satellite radio back in the day, and I think meeting Bubba in real life would be a trip.
Bubba is an awesome human being. He tells everybody I'm his best friend, but I think he tells everybody that, like, because we go down there and test. Like when we leave Otto, we'll go test 2 or 3 nights. I mean, we can test everywhere but Brunswick, the way the days work out, because you can't test 7 days before. And Bubba is like, I mean, he's just a character. Like he'll start telling you about Hulk Hogan and just crazy. And he's a
Here's the deal.
yeah, like I think me and him get along because we're pretty straightforward. And he's a, I mean, he's proud of what he does, and he doesn't want anybody's opinion. Like he'll flood this thing out on practice night. You'd be like, Bubba, what the f are you doing? He's like, just trust me, I'm telling you. Like he'll get all spun out and yelling, and
I'm a
then
rattler, Herb. Come on.
yeah, and then he'll just be like normal again, and you're like, what the, like what's wrong with this guy? But yeah, Bubba's a character, and that track is the most unique track you race at. Like there's not another track in America that's like it as far as the dog leg and all that. So it's that's what I'm saying. It's those places down there. Like a lot of people say, like, oh, you leave Florida and you're good there, throw all that out the window. Like I think that's because I've left Florida probably 3 years and been like kick ass, and then like continued to do really good. We're like last year I wasn't that good, and it just relayed into the whole rest of the year. Like we were like, yeah, we're not that good. So yeah, all those places are. That's why I think if you can run good consistently throughout Florida, you know, if you go Brunswick, Red Dirt, then you go to Bubba the next night, which is a one-off. Like there's nothing like Bubba's. They're like, oh, it's kind of like Alltech, kind of like East. It's nothing like either one. Different color dirt, doesn't race anything like it. It goes from slime to wide open to rubber. Like there's no in between. And then Alltech is it's 50-50. Like you don't know what you're gonna get. Wendell, coolish, another good dude to hang out with. And then East Bay is it's its own animal too. There's nothing like it. Like just the speed and the track surface for sure is it's crazy because it's slime. Like you'll go out there in hot laps 20 seconds and then qualify at a 12.9, 13.1. Like that's a big jump, you know, from hot laps to qualifying. And then the feature, it can have a mud ring, it can do this, and then it can have a caution and rubber under caution. And like I'm gonna be honest with you, the tide ain't got to do with that. Like I've looked and I've been there and won there and sucked there and all kinds of shit. Like that tide ain't got to do with it. Maybe 20 years ago, folktale before people had cell phones, but tide ain't got to do with East Bay. It's just the dirt and the way they prep it. And I mean, if East Bay, if we have to pack the track at East Bay, it's gonna be the best race you've seen. If we don't pack the track at East Bay, it ain't worth a damn. And that's just the way it's been, for the last 5, 6 years. Like you can tell, like the first night, if you got packed the track, might be the best race of the week. And then they'll go back and rework it, but they can't. Whatever happens when you have to pack that racetrack, they can't mimic that throughout the night. It's not like you can go to Eldora and rework the top and build a cushion. Like whatever East Bay is when it starts, like right there in hot laps, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be really good, or it ain't gonna be worth a damn. That's that's just they're all so different, and if you can get balanced at those places, 90% of the time when you go to the next place after that, your first race after that, you're gonna be like, if you were fast there, you're not gonna slow down going to the next place. But if you suck in Florida, some guys just don't like Jimmy Owens historically terrible in Florida. No good. It's just not his deal. But when it gets midsummer and stuff, he just gets fast. Like it's just the way it goes. That's my way of looking at racing is if I'm good in Florida, I'm gonna be good the rest of the year.
You see so much crazy shit that happens down in the state of Florida. What's the craziest thing you've ever been a part of down there?
In the state of Florida, ooh, let's see. Well, Kyle Bronson lives in Florida, and he's not the most normal person, but I don't know. I'd probably have to say if anybody's ever been to Key West, that's a crazy non-racing related. Just went on vacation there with Kyle and Brian Shirley, and it was like it was a culture shock for all of us. Like we'd never seen nothing like it. Going down Duval Street, throughout the day, like midday is the older people, which it's not really a kid resort spot. Like kids don't go to Key West. So, middle of the day, you might see if there's 10 kids on the island, they'll be out and about, and then the older people, and then about 7 o'clock, it's like a switch flips. And I mean, this place is crazy. Like the stuff you can see there and take part of. And, I've never been to a bar where the first level is like a country bar and the second level is kind of like a club and the third level is just naked people, like a lot of them. And it's not a strip club. It's just we bought a pit pass because I told the bouncer, I was like, dude, what's upstairs? He's like, oh, you got to buy. So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna buy it. And you walk up there and it's just 80-year-old people butt naked dancing. It's the craziest you ever seen. I mean, especially if you're in the right mindset watching all this take place, you're like, this is wild. Like, how is this legal, first of all? And then second of all, just there's a lot of, like, there's not many forgive in Key West, I'd say.
Really, the whole state of Florida to me is like that. The northern half of Florida is like a whole different world, and then you get down to like Miami, that's a whole different place. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it because it seems like every time I'm in Florida, I either get COVID or the flu.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It ain't Texas, that's for sure.
No, it's a lot more free. Texas is like I feel like Texas is like a Western, and Florida is like a Scarface movie. Like there's a big difference. It's no rules to an extent, but it's a totally different version of it. Like just the stuff that can go on in Florida and Texas, it could go on, but it'd be like frowned upon. But like if any of it happened in New York, they would like shut the place down. So it's the whole state's different, but it's cool. I like Florida. I don't know if I'd live there, but I do like visiting and vacationing and spending time down there.
I wish you were old enough to be able to remember and have been around Bubba during his heyday on Sirius, like '06, '07, '08, in that era, because Bubba was living large at
Yeah.
that time period. And I guarantee you, what them boys, Brent Hatley and the others down there were doing had to have been insane.
Yeah, when he tells the stories, you can't like you take his stories and you're like he's exaggerating. He's like, "Oh no, hell no, look, look, look." And he'll pull it up on YouTube or he's got this saved on his phone. Like, they roasted a live pig on air and he was telling me about the lawsuit he got from I think it was PETA. Like they got sued and all this and he told me he's like there's three things you can't say on radio. Like he tells me this and he's like can't say the N-word, can't say, racial slurs, which falls into the N word and all that. He's like, you can't say basically LGBTQ, anything like that, to an extent, and then any sort of like a medical thing. He's like, other than that, he said, dude, you can commit murder on the radio. He said, it's freedom of speech. Like, that's what it is. And I'm like, for real? So then he starts telling me, stories of he's like, oh yeah, we've had people fornicate on here. He's like, and it's just, I mean, dude, it just is what it is.
Oh, in like '06, '07, '08, Shock the Puss, Shock the Balls. I mean, he had Asia Akira, the porn star. I mean, them guys, him and Brent and you know the rest of that cast that some of them aren't there anymore, but Bubba's show, like you'd listen to Stern in the morning, and it was like, you know, everybody thinks at that time Stern was the wild man of radio. And then you wait till Bubba's show, and them guys would blow away anything Stern was doing in terms of insanity. He had the Bubba gun. I mean, they were shocking, putting things in places that they weren't supposed to go. I mean, it was just absolute debauchery, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, they should have had a reality TV show of him in his prime.
Oh,
Like it would have put. I mean, it couldn't. It had been on like Showtime or I don't even know if they'd put it on Showtime, but it had to been like a. It would have been awesome, really. Like it's.
they did the anal ring toss quite
Yeah,
a bit over there. Like that was a big bit. And I mean, he had that whole cast, and Bubba was cool in the fact that like Bubba would talk about race car. I mean, he had Daniel Lasoski on his show. Like he was constantly talking about racing and all that kind of. So it was real. It was a real live era in that. And I wish we could see Bubba again on an uncensored national scale because he's still. I still catch him on YouTube and in other places.
Twitch. He's a
Yeah,
Twitch
he's
guy now. Yeah, but it's not near the same. He had me on there. I was on it last year. He called me. He's like, "You want to be on my show?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
damn.
So I was on it, but it was pretty mellow. Like I think he's had to mellow out. Just
Well, it's not, it's crazy, and this is what's crazy about even like Stern on Sirius. The stuff they were doing 15 years ago, you couldn't do it now,
no,
just
you can't.
because the way things have changed and evolved. I mean, it's, not every day can be an Illinois State basketball game.
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly. It's just I don't know. The world's changing, and it's hard to it's hard to please everybody. So I think it's best that a lot of people just back up and don't say, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it's come to, and it sucks sometimes, especially for me. I like to say what I think, and it's a lot. A lot of it's crude, and it's not crude. I don't think. I think it's just truth, and people don't like that. So, yeah, it's the world's changing. I guess I'm born 20 years too late because I would have really had a good time in my, the early 2000s, late 90s. I think I'd have been fit right in.
Yeah, I'm 46. It's just a different era now. You can't do things that you could do in the past. And not good, not bad. It's different. People's sensitivities have changed. And I think Bubba, I hope he does well as a track operator and I'm rooting for the guy cuz he is a true talent in the business of radio, man. And he was a workhorse. He had a Radio IO show. He was on terrestrial radio and then doing Sirius. I mean, them guys were working, they were working 24/7. I don't know how they had time to party, but they seem to find a way to have done it back then.
Yeah, they partied. He told me a lot of those stories too. They're pretty good.
As a listener, man, I can only imagine what the real life was like. So Florida coming up, that's going to be a good time, a lot of racing, and then back again this year on the Lucas Oil Tour.
Yeah, probably. We'll see. Just, they see how things go. Everything goes good. I mean, we're gonna do all speed weeks and really just go from there. You never know what can happen, but I mean, we're a mainstay, so you never know. That's what I said last year. Like, I don't know, and then you just kind of fall into place, and wherever you land, you land.
Does that run through your head every season? Like, what am I going to do this year?
Me personally, no, but my car owner and I think some of my sponsors, they really enjoy just being able to tune into one broadcast and know I'm going to be on that one. But me personally, if I was the judge, the executioner, the sheriff, and everything, I wouldn't tell anybody anything and I would just show up wherever my heart desired. I mean, I think a lot of people have done that and had a lot of success doing that. And I think that's another, just kind of falls back into preparation. Like if you're, just say you're not quite ready and you just raced at Eldora and you got to go to Georgetown, Delaware, and there's a 10,000 win Atomic Speedway 2 hours from my house. You know, if you didn't win the last 5 weekends, it's really hard to drive by Atomic Speedway to go to Georgetown, Delaware. No offense to Georgetown. If you're Ross Robinson, Georgetown's in your backyard. But for me, I'm like, dude, I got to get on a ferry to get there. Like, I don't want to go there, and that's kind of the logistical part of it. It's just, you know, I have more time being close to all the races, but at the end of the day, you never have enough time. So if you can kind of schedule yourself on what makes sense, not, oh, hey, this pays the most money this weekend. Like if it pays 50,000 win, but 10,000 for second, and you can go to a 10,000 win against not as the same caliber of field, your odds of making that 10,000 are way better. You just, that's something that I think a lot of teams are going to start, weighing the risk reward of it. If you drive 50,000 miles a year to race and you make, 300, $400,000 a year, you can drive 20,000 miles and make $300,000. That makes more sense,
Yeah, if you could race 16 times at Eldora, you'd have it made.
Yeah, I mean 30 minutes from the house. So that's something that, I think every team goes through it and they evaluate it at some point. And if you don't have something marrying you to one series or the next or obligations, you know, it's definitely in the cards for anybody, not just me. Like, you never know who's going to switch or go to this series or that series. So it's, I don't know. Yeah, it goes through my head quite a bit. But I mean, I don't plan tomorrow. So personally, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go here today. I'll go over here. Like, I'm on a race. I just go wherever. So maybe I'll get to that point, at some point. You just never know when.
Are you thinking about another 100 plus race schedule this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, just from so with Votto, and then there's 14 races in Florida, 14 or 16, because I'm not doing Volusia. So that's 22 right there, right off the rip. So by March 1st, we'll be at 22 races, and that's not the busy season. Like June, July, August, September, you can race 4 or 5 days a week if you're geared up and things are going good. So yeah, I'd say. I mean, I don't set a number at the beginning of the year. Like I think since I've been at Best, we've done the first year we might have did 80, 85 because that's really all that was available. Flow wasn't their series wasn't around, XR wasn't around, and that was still going to summer national races and here and there and everything in between. And then COVID year, obviously, that was the least amount of races I've raced in 8 years. Like we only ran 40 or 45. So I just plan on every weekend I'm ready. Like the month of March, you pretty much call a wash because it's going to rain and snow and it's cold. And obviously, nobody's ever looked at a map and, checked the weather because anything north of, I'd say Tennessee is not going to happen. And for whatever reason, we just continue to schedule races in anything north of that, which makes no sense to me. So, yeah, March, you can plan on racing 3 or 4 times, but they're going to get rained out. So, about April, you kind of get back in the rhythm, and then by the end of April, it's wide open again. So our off season is really March. Into February, most of March is your off season, and we're lucky that we kind of we didn't take off. There wasn't much going on off Charlotte. Everything got canceled and rained out, which was good. So we actually we got everything ready now, and then once we get done with Florida, we'll have another month to kind of regroup and get situated, and then no stopping until mid-November really. And then you got 2 or 3 races here and there leading up to the start of the next year.
And the merch game is still going strong. Race Ranch again this year.
Race Ranch, they are
And
killing it.
yeah,
Matt
it really
James,
is.
Matt James killing it. The Dome, everybody that buys shirts, I do appreciate it. And yeah, it's actually been better because I don't have to have somebody drive my van and all this. And Matt's good enough to us that I don't think he misses a race unless I tell him like, hey, like Votto, they're not taking anything out there just because historically there hasn't been enough fans to justify it. And that's what I told him. I'm like, look, man, you could go, but for your sake, like we just did the dome, and I know that's a lot of work. Like I don't do just, I'm like, hey, I'll be there. You want me to sign autographs? I'll come up. And I think people don't understand. Hey, man, you got any shirts with you? I'm like, no, dude. It's such a, it's just a lot of work. It is, and if you're not good at it, there's no reason to do it. And they're doing a really good job. So that's just the avenue that we're on, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So yeah, it's merch is one thing that keeps a lot of people head above water, I think. So it's it's a lot of work, but you got to have good people in place, and they're doing a great job right now.
Man, his designs are off the chain right now.
Yeah, I don't know who does it. He acts like he designs it, but I don't think he does. I give him some input, and we always, like at the Dome, we had two shirts just for the Dome with all the other shit we had, and he was like, he sent me one, and I text back, I was like, dude, that is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. And I was like, do one this way, and I picked one. He's like, you want to bet which one sells more at the end? I'm like, yeah, mine. He's like, nah. And I know, I mean, I know he's right because I've designed them and done them all myself for 2 years there. And one thing race fans like is a gaudy t-shirt. Like, I don't know what it is. They don't want a clean, crisp. Like, if you could buy it at Buckle in the American Fighter section, that's the shit that's going to sell. Which, me personally, I don't like that. But I'm not buying my own t-shirt. So it's hard to argue with the man. But yeah, they do a good job. And he's pretty, like, hip almost. Like he knows like, hey, this is hot. This is what we need to do. You need to have a different looking car for this event because I'm telling you it's gonna sell. Like all the ones we did at Eldora this year, like Smokey and the Bandit, simplest thing ever, and people absolutely loved it. So I did too. I think that was probably the best looking car we had all year. The mellow yellow car looked good. The red and white one, Marlboro car at the Dome, badass. But yeah, it's I personally wouldn't go out of my way to do it, and he kind of pushes like, hey, you need to change up. People want to see different colors. Like, I'm like, dude, our car's green. He's like, I don't care. Like, we got to do something just for this weekend. I'm like, well, it's a lot of work. He's like, it'll be worth it. Don't worry about it. So, yeah, he does really good with that. I appreciate all that for sure.
And the fan support for you has been very, very strong. That's you really built a brand. Coming out of Texas, you've really built a brand that's lasted. And I saw that there was a Lucas, I think it was a Lucas Oil late model series poll that had you like the fourth most popular driver, and I'm not sure how legit those type of polling numbers are, but that's got to be a feather in the cap.
Yeah, they don't count on my votes. It's just like the presidential election, but they I mean, that's what's crazy is so like my car owner, he gets all of our emails. Like I don't get no interaction besides people that send me messages and which is probably good because I'll tell some of them off. Just selling on marketplace, I get mad and I just say probably shouldn't say, but like Lucas, I've been in timeout a couple times. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that's been suspended from both series at different points. Never at the same time, which is good, but like I've been suspended from World Outlaws for a year. I've been suspended from Lucas from the East Bay thing for a couple nights or whatever it was. And I'm still on indefinite probation too. Apparently, I asked him. I was with him at one point this year. I was like, "Am I still on indefinite probation from like 2021?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "That's what you told me. You said indefinite probation, whatever that means." And but they don't like me sometimes. Like at Huset's one night, I got on the mic and I ran third, but I thought the guys behind me jumped start. So I just told them whoever was in the booth officiating it, and I used their first name because I know who officiates it. And that's big ordeal, like bad, like oh we're timeout, tisk you, and I'm like, listen, like that's got you more views than anything you've ever done. Like nobody. I tell people this all the time. Who won Cedar Lake when I hit Bobby Pierce?
Brandon Overton.
See, you know that because you're a fat guy.
Because I interviewed you once and you told me that because I didn't. The first time we had this conversation, I didn't remember who won that.
Right, and that's what I've told World Outlaws that, many a times. And even Kenny, like I ran Kenny over on accident. I didn't try to kill Kenny. Like I tell him that. Like I have stickers made that said I killed Kenny, but I didn't. And like if you watch a Dirt Vision broadcast, there's two videos on there always. One of me flipping the wrong way at Fairbury and one of me hitting Bobby Pierce. Like they show it all the time religiously. But at the time, like I got shunned, fined, suspended, all this. I'm like, okay, this is where racers need more of a voice. I'm like, you're using my likeness for your viewership, on everybody. Lucas, World Outlaws, whatever you got. So like, if you think it's bad, why don't you ask the 72,000 people that shared that video on Facebook? Like I don't know how many subscribers you got or how many people watch this race, but pretty sure that got way more attention than anything else you did. Granted I was wrong, wasn't the right thing to do, but like you're using it. It did something for you. People don't always want to see, like people don't watch Joel Osteen. They watch Jerry Springer, and so like that's what they know that. They know it deep down, but it's almost like you got to have a villain and you got to have a hero, and I don't fit the hero type for a lot of them. Like in certain situations, like the Dome last year, I was a hero, whatever, and I get that. But it's because it's not scripted. Like it's not. I'm not trying to make up. Like if I'm mad, I'm mad. If I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm whatever, and racetrack fans, dirt track fans are for the most part normal people. They're not highfalutin people of the world. Some of them are, but the general mass are like me. They go to a racetrack because they're not going to go to the Houston Orchestra to watch on Saturday. They want to go to a dirt track where they can yell and cuss and drink beer and do like that. So that's going to draw to me. That's what people like. They want me. Like I'll smoke a cigar in the trailer because I wanted to. Not for any, it wasn't like I didn't go buy a cigar that day because I knew y'all were coming in there to say like film us. I was like, I got these cigars, might as well smoke them while we're doing this. And that's the way my mind works, and it works. People that I feel like Scott has a whole level. His are like cult followers. Mine aren't cult followers. They're just like there's the people that like me, and they'll like you can say something bad, and they'll be like, "Well, listen, it's justified. This is what he felt," or "Yeah, he was wrong, but I mean that's what he does." And then there's the ones that just absolutely hate me. But the only reason they hate me is because of like an altercation I got in that they just are diehards for that person. It's not like I have a hard divide because of my who I am or what I've said and done. It's just like people that can relate or they like me, they're all about it. And then people are like, "Oh, you suck. You should be fired. You should this. You should that." They have like another agenda. Like they love Tyler Carpenter. Like I ain't got nothing against him, but like for a while, people were saying I was losing my ride to Tyler Carpenter. Like it's not true. you know, like it's just not realistic. That wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. So the people that were like I almost think the people that were sharing it were the people that were more like Tyler Carpenter, let's go. But at the end of the day, the clicks you get one way or the other, the people that buy a shirt or don't buy one, if they're like, I won't buy his shirt because of him, that's just as good as someone buying a shirt because they like me. Like it literally is. It's the same likeliness. Like people recognize you and they have their opinion towards you, so that's all that matters. The more that you have, the more. If you have no opinion, like if somebody's like, "Hey, Scott," and they're like, "Who the Scott?" It doesn't do anything. You gotta have someone's attention, no matter what it is.
I think in the light of history, the run in at Cedar Lake with you and Pierce turned out to be great for both of your careers.
Yeah, I mean, it created more fans on my side to people that probably were on the fence about me, and then the people that love Bobby, like they're gonna love Bobby. It doesn't matter. Like his people are diehards, and like at the Dome when he got wrecked, he said, "Yeah, they got what they want. It's rough." I think he called it like the whole place booed him. And then like if you go on social media and read some of it, like people are still defending it. Like I was indifferent. I don't give two shit what he said. It is what like we all say this place sucks or this place was good that day. But like the majority in the stadium was booing him, but like out of that majority, if there was 50,000 people there, 25,000 of them are still huge Bobby Pierce fans. Just in the moment, they were like boo and yelling at him and shit. Either way, it creates,
It's heat.
yeah, it just creates attention for you.
Well, I think that's where the WWE has dominated their industry for 50 years because they know how to sell heat.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's all we're doing. Like that's all we're doing. It's a show. I mean, we're a circus. It's literally what it is. Like
Especially at the Dome. I mean, the fans come there. They come there hungry for
they want to
shit.
happen.
Yeah.
They want people to wreck. They want somebody to fight. They want somebody to yell. Um, like it just depends on the level of who gets into it with who or whatever. Like, you know, I got into it with Miles Moose barely, whatever, and like there was the thing that I had going for me there is my following was much bigger. So like he was mad, and if it would have been a Bobby Pierce and I would have got together like that, it'd have been a huge ordeal. But like he didn't have enough heat on his side to make a ruffle. Like nobody knew except me because I just went and read it. And my people they're like, "Man, that guy," and I'm like, it is what it is. Like it's not a big deal. But if it would have been I mean, if it could have been anybody, if it had been Bobby and Ricky Thornton, it'd have been a huge ordeal, but it's just who's involved is what creates the most ruffle and everything. Cody has figured that out. Like he knows, hey, I need this guy to be here. I need this guy to be here. Like the provisional thing. He gave me a provisional probably because I won last year, whatever. And then, I passed some of those cars, hard charger, all that. Like, and people like that. Like if you go back and read it all, they're like, holy, like he passed a lot of cars, yada yada. Like that's what gets people drawn. So if he would have put Bobby in there, this is my thinking. This is big thinking now. Bobby already made his headline. He crashed. He called the place. These people are against him. So if you put him in the race, all them people are like, what the f-? And then the people that wanted me to race, they're like, hey, he should have been in the race. Y'all screwed him on the transponder. Whether it did or didn't, like, so he does a good job of playing on that and keeping all parties involved. Like, if Bobby would have got a provisional, it was indifferent to him because Bobby had already created so much, you know, he'd stirred everything up so much 2 hours earlier. Like, he did his part, next one out the gate. We need somebody else to do something. So Cody is a person that sees that kind of stuff, and he does a good job of making it bigger than it really is. Like he blows up because that's what people want to see. Like you just can't do that. I don't know that you could sustainably do that 100 times a year. Like it would lose some of its spunk if there was 10 domes a year. But everybody's like, holy shit, it's only inside race. We got to go. They cut the cap off. We can't have 400 cars. So if these 150 get in, that's the ones we got to see and cheer for. And he knows that. Like he's not going to, I mean, he texts me when they're doing the cap. He's like, hey, you haven't sent your entry in. I'm like, dude, I'm driving home from whatever day they opened it. We were driving home from Charlotte, I think. I was like, dude, I'm driving. I don't even have a computer and shit. He was like, well, you've got to enter, dude. Like, I can't just put you in. He's like, you're going to be in, but you've got to enter. Like, I can't argue with all these people. Like, you need to at least send the form and shit. So I'm like, all right. So I had to call around and get it all sent in. But like, he's in touch enough to know, hey, I need to text Tyler and make sure he gets it. I need to text Bobby. I need to text Tyler Carpenter and make sure he gets in because Tyler Carpenter has a cult following there. He might not anywhere else, but at that place, Tyler Carpenter's a hero.
He won a feature there in Hey Dudes, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive.
I was there that night. That was pretty awesome.
Like this year, I think was the least, you know, attention he's got since he's been there. Because every other year he's been there, he's won or wrecked with HUD or something cool's happened.
The crowd in St. Louis loves him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Carpenter is a legend at the Dome because just the she said done. Even the one year him and Ricky got into it, and Ricky called him I believe is what he said,
Uh-oh.
and that was bad. And like then Ricky had to go and apologize. Like it's just the way it all was said. I was like, ooh, like me standing back, I'm like, ooh, he shouldn't have said that. But then at the same time, it's like Tyler Carpenter's people, they're like, you ain't gonna say that. It was like, I mean, that was like a slur. Like you can't say that.
And them West Virginia guys will whip your ass.
Oh yeah, they're wild. They love to fight. They're crazy.
Yeah, we got a dose of that last year when we did that Scott Bloomquist podcast down at his place, and he said, that stuff about Ricky. And there was so much internet heat, like it was crazy. It was surreal to be a part of that, and I don't agree with what Bloomquist said at all. Like he's when he said he outran Ricky in mods every time, I'm thinking I'm sitting next to him and I'm looking at I look at Dale McDowell and we're both like, what is he talking about? Because I've seen Ricky Thornton win 500 IMCA races, and I never saw Bloomquist beat him, in Vegas or anywhere he's run. But the way that the fans just grabbed a hold of that and it was sharing it everywhere, it's like, my God, this is nuts.
Yeah, I mean Scott, he can anything Scott says, people just latch to it. They love it. But that's what I'm saying. The fans are they they make that person like if you go win 50 races next year and not a fan says a word about you, nobody cares. But like, if you win 10 races and you create the most stir, that's what means more to the series, the streamer, the people that stream the races, the fans for sure. That's what they want. Like they don't want a guy that wins 50 races that doesn't say or do or, even if it's something like Ricky's won every race this year, okay? And like his fans, they just keep pumping it, pumping it, pumping it, pumping it, pump. Like they're making it like holy, she's the greatest thing ever. And That's just when Kyle Larson first came on and won 3 or 4 races, they did the same thing. They're like, Kyle Larson's the greatest dirt track. I mean, people to this day fight you to death about it. Like, people say he's a top 5 dirt late model driver ever. And it's like, how the f can you say this? This guy's ran 30 races his whole life. And, they'll fight you to the death about it. So a lot of it's just, it's not that they're uneducated, it's just their opinion, and they're that
Right.
passionate about it that if you argue with them, they'll sit there for days and argue with you about it. And that's what I don't argue with them on my Facebook, and people still to this day, like, I have a couple Facebooks, and I'm not going to tell you which ones I run or don't run, but like, I don't argue with them. Like, I don't have to, you know what I mean? But like, I have somebody in place he'll argue with you till you're blue in the face, and you don't know if it's me, you don't know if it's him, but it gets the job done. Like, it gets a lot of stirred, and like, that's what, that's what you have to do to keep things relevant. Like, Scott said that, and he was relevant. Like, he was relevant until Charlotte. He ain't raced since. Like, he didn't race from that point to Charlotte. I don't think he had raced all year, right? Like, Scott didn't race once last year except Charlotte.
Charlotte, correct.
That was it. So he said that, and it was like, holy shit. People are talking about this forever. And it's like a piggyback of, if he'd have said that about Timothy Culp, nobody would have gave two, right? Because he wasn't the most relevant thing at the time, but Ricky was so relevant that that's what, I mean, he said that. You believe he said that about him? And, you know, me and other racers, we sit back and we're like, Scott's so dumb. Like, what is he talking about? But, the average person they see is like, this guy's jabbing at Ricky. Why would he do that? He's won everything. This guy don't even race anymore. So it creates a big conflict. And, Scott's still relevant because of who he is. Good, bad, ugly, like, he is relevant. You say Scott, people know they're never going to forget Scott Bloomquist because of everything. Not the fact he won 600 and something races, but because he just, as she said and done over the years, you're like, holy. It's almost like you wouldn't believe it if you've never met him or you didn't know it. Like, you'd think a lot of it was made up, and you're like, this guy's, it's for real. Like, he's in his own world.
And he's earned that place. Now with the Thornton deal, I think I mean it's hard for me to look at what he said and think that I can't give credence to that because Ricky Thornton had a dominant year. He's had a really his whole career he's dominated in whatever he's raced like that. But the audience response was out of control.
Yeah, I mean, and his following it gets bigger and bigger and bigger when he won both prelims, I was thinking about, I was like, if this guy wins the mod race tomorrow and the late model tomorrow, like, he was the first guy to win, both prelims. I was like, if he does this, they're like that, the dome, that's it. Like, Ricky Thornton dominated the dome too. And I'm like, these people are going to go crazy. Like, they love this. So the fact that he didn't win the mod or the late model was kind of like a whew. Like, I mean, it doesn't, it just, you can already see the next wave of what's going to happen if he wins both those races, because like, he won everything. Like, he won everything this year pretty much. So it's, when you win, everything else comes easy. Like, it's hard to be relevant if you're not winning. But if you win, all it takes is a little bit, and you can get a lot of things going and moving in your direction. Like, guys racing at the Tulsa Shootout is going to race Chili Bowl next week or whatever. So it's you know, winning makes everything in life easier, and it's not easy to win. So when you can, you definitely got to make the most of it.
What's it like being a competitor of theirs? You know, you see Ricky, you see Jonathan Davenport every night you're checking in with the Lucas series. What's it like during the course of one of those dominant years with those guys as a competitor? Are you looking at them every night going, Shh, I gotta get faster?
Yeah, pretty much. You're just waiting for something to happen. Like, you're working, trying to make things better, and sometimes it messes. You can mess yourself up more than anything. Like, if you're good enough to run second, third, fourth every night, like, eventually you're gonna beat them and win. But you'll go from running second, third, fourth to 10th, 11th, 12th, 16th, then you start sucking, and you're like, what is going on? Because you're chasing everything, trying to. You're like, I'm not good enough. I run third. Well, realistically, if things work out a little bit different, if things went your way a little bit better that night, you might have won. Because the nights they don't win, even if they run third, fourth, fifth, somebody beat them. So you got to almost kind of just cool yourself down and be like, all right, like, are we this far off, or are we just messing ourselves up more trying to chase this white elephant that we don't know what it is, you know? And I mean, it happens every year. Like the year before, last year, JD and Overton won the most races, most money. You know, it's the way. Bobby didn't have a great year. The year before that was what was that? 2020. Nobody won 2020. Overton won the Dreams, but it was kind of a shit year.
COVID won 2020.
COVID won 2020. So that's it. Just Jimmy Owens won everything in 2020. But like you gotta, it's like everybody has a time. When your time comes, you make the most of it and you win the most races and do everything you can do. And if it's not your time, you just got to stay mellow. Like if you get spun out, you just make everything worse. It never gets any better if you're just trying and trying. I think if you don't have fun doing it because you're so stressed that you suck and you're not going to beat these guys, then everything just gets worse. At least if you're having fun, good things seem to happen while you're doing it.
That's a good point, and I want to think back to something I saw. I personally watched you the Friday night of the Eldora Dream. Car got up, but you were there. The pits were full of fans after the races were over. You were slamming on body panels. You were working, grinding, going at it. But for a guy that had that kind of tough luck, your attitude, your demeanor with people was like you were happy as could be to be there. And I was thinking to myself, if I was in that same situation, I'd be the biggest prick there was in this pit area tonight. So there must be something in your head. Either you just love what you do, or I got to keep a positive focus because tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, both. Like, okay, that Dream Weekend, that was the first night I blew up. So I changed the motor. Then, but I qualified good. I won my heat, but I blew motor. So the next night, I uh I qualified. I won my heat again. Start on the front row, and the kill switch got knocked off. So I went to the tail, like 2 laps in, and there was a pile up. Ricky Wiener wrecked the field. Not Ricky Thornton, the other Ricky, and Weiss. Don't like him. And long story short, destroyed this car. Like the whole body's wiped out of it. And like, mind you, we stayed up till like 4 in the morning changing a motor the night before, day of, actually, same day. So I'm fixing this car, and I'm just like if you get mad, it's just you don't. Like I get mad. Don't get me wrong. I get mad as anybody can be, but I've gotten better at like getting mad on my own time. Like if I got 8 hours to drive home, then I'll get mad. But like in the moment, okay, if I'm pissed off and I know I got 3 hours of work, like them 3 hours are gonna take forever. But if drunk fans are coming up asking me dumb questions and I can give them dumb answers and I get a little bit of satisfaction out of that, like that makes me happy. So I'm like, well, I'll just talk with these guys and if they ask me, man, you beating out that panel? I'll be like, nah, I'm not. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like I get, it's like small wins almost. Like you're like, yeah, if this guy asks me something dumb or if he says something dumb, like I just go back and forth with him. Next thing you know, I've killed 20 minutes, but I've been doing this. And like at the end of the day, tomorrow I'm going to start eighth in a heat race. Like it is what it is. Like not good odds, but like it can still be done. And like that weekend, I ended up running fifth or sixth in the Dream. Like pretty good. It's rubbered. But like the start of the heat race, I was in seventh. Like I started seventh, I think, in my race and end up running second in the heat or something. So like that's the thing about racing is you just don't know because everything can be going right and then it just tanks. So when everything's going wrong, at some point, if you're doing all the right, like if you're working, everything's prepared, you're trying to make your car better within means and you're not just pissing your time away, like it will go good for you. And that's, I mean, I do love everything about it. And I like, I like the people that, if they're ballsy enough to come down and say something good, bad, mean, like I give them props. I'm like, you know what? I'll say something back. Whether it's just a little kid that wants to take a picture, say hi, how's it going, or if it's some old dude that's like, "F you, man," because we get a lot of those. Like, I mean, you never know. Like when a guy walks up, I always try to like size him up. Like I'm like, all right, what's his body language? Like, see, because like I'll look and see somebody staring that wants to come over, and I'm like, all right, is this guy gonna come and want to fight, or is he like want to say hi? Because that's one thing. It's not like NASCAR. We're not on pit road with all this people. Like, it's me and my two guys, and if they're not into it, they're not worried about all these people. So like, I don't know, I'm just always conscious of that. So like, I'll size somebody up and be like, oh yeah, he's drunk, or oh yeah, he's just happy, he wants to say something, or maybe this guy wants to buy this door, or man, that guy hates me. Like, you look at what they're wearing, their body language, and you can tell
Right.
what somebody's MO is. And yeah, I like to give them the time of day either way. Like, I mean, 90% of it now, I'd say nowadays, most people that come up, they're, they want to be nice or say some. Some of them will say something shisty every now and then, but most of the time they're just like, "Hey, man, what happened?" Like, look at
Just
this car. What do you mean? What happened? You know what? Nah, man, I missed all them heat races.
just like they want Turbo to give them an update. Like, hey,
Yeah,
hey, what happened tonight? Nothing,
yeah,
buddy.
pretty much. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Like, it could be worse. Like, a bad day, worse days, totaling a car. Like, at the end of the day, my two guys that come with me, they're my buddies. I like hanging out. Like, they work for us, but like, I get along with them. You have to. We spend 320 days a year together. So, we like going to get, like, we can all go out to eat, or we could go on vacation, or we could go race. So we get along good, and that's good. And, I just, there's not many jobs and things that you can do in life and make a small living where you get to enjoy all the stuff, like my job right now, I'm going to Vado, but like I've been here since 2 days before Christmas, and I didn't have to call into work. I just, I tell my coroner and I'm like, hey, look, we're gonna race the dome. I'm washing. I'm leaving Thursday. I'm gonna be in Texas Friday. If you get all your shit done, you can make the most out of this doing whatever you want. Like, I played golf today with absolutely no plan to doing that 2 weeks ago. I didn't have to do shit. I was like, come down here, unload my car, do a little bit of stuff, and if I want to play golf today, I'm play golf today. And I like the freedom of it. So that's where I get a lot of enjoyment, I guess.
Yeah, the golf today, that was a great, and that's something like I was really surprised because I didn't figure a dirt track guy like yourself who's on the road that much is going to be able to play golf at the level that you were at, and something that I was impressed by that.
Never played golf a day in my life till I went to Fairbury. That's another thing. You go on the road, you learn to do never played golf a day in my life. I went to PDC when I was like, let's see, I turned 26, what, 2 days. January 1st, I turned 26. 27, I turned 27. So I'd never played golf a day in my life. I'm like 20. Go to the PDC, and they have the golf outing. They're like, you want to play? I'm like, dude, I never played golf. They're like, it's okay. I was like, dude, I don't have clubs. They're like, no, you can play. So I swing a golf club the first time, and I'm terrible. Like, terrible. I played baseball in my life. I'm not athletic. Dude, I never played golf. You never played golf.
And baseball will ruin you in golf.
Terrible. Worst life. For 3 years, I couldn't hit a ball to the left to save my life. Never could figure it out. So, anyways, I played once, and I was like, this is dumb. I'm so bad at this, yada, yada, yada. But, you play with five other dudes in a scramble, and, they just talk you along the way. So I'm like, man, that's dumb. So we go the next year, same thing, a tournament, same team. My team won. I have a plaque from winning first golf tournament I ever played in. We won, and it's because my team was outstanding. Like, I didn't do. I maybe made a putt all day. So we go back the next year. I play with the same guys, same funnest, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I actually want to be good at this, just so I can, like, I don't want to be the guy on the team that sucks. Like, I don't care to go by myself, but like, if I'm gonna play with four dudes, I want to be like the second to worst one. I don't be the worst one. So I go that year and I'm like, I'm gonna buy some golf clubs. Well, in our shop in Ohio, they have a little golf course, Northmore. Bought a set of clubs and a bag for $100 used. I don't know what they were. They're terrible. And I've played with them my whole life, or my whole life. The last 5 years, that's what I played with. And really, you'd be surprised a lot of dirt track racers that love golf. I guess it's because most racers aren't athletes. I say they're not athletes. They're not ball and stick athletes. Like, some of the best race car drivers in the world, terrible hand-eye coordination. Like, terrible. Like, if you watch them play kickball, you're like, these guys, like, they can't run, you know? And then, so you get to thinking, like, well, what do these guys do if they, well, golf. It's an old man sport for the most part. And, yeah, just me and my guys, we play a lot. And then just on the road, Devin Moran, Spencer Hughes, huge golf guy, huge golf guy. Like, he's gotten me to where we play a lot more because he's like, it'd be lunch, and he's like, we're going to Eldora in a day, and he's like, man, we got to build a body, put this motor in, and this and that. You want to go eat lunch, play 18 holes? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Let's go. So yeah, I don't know. It's just something, and it's something you can do any state, any place in America, literally at your leisure. So yeah, I'm not a scratch golfer by no means yet, but I mean that would be my retirement plan. That's what I tell them. That's my retirement. I just bought new clubs a month ago. Like I actually bought my first set of clubs, nice ones. And that's what I keep kidding with them. I'm like, if I get good in a year, y'all will never see me again. Like I'm going on the tour, but we're not close to that yet.